while since I filmed anything, so I thought I'd just ease back into it, starting with a life update. My life has changed quite a lot. I'll try and make this as short as possible, but it's such a long story. So in April I became a mum. I have a son. He's just turned 5 months now. Thought I would come on and do my birth story. I'm gonna try and make it as short as possible. My son was due in May, first week of May. He came the first week of April instead, so he was a month early. Yeah, so prior to me having him, about 3 days before having him, I wasn't feeling very well. So I didn't say anything to anyone on the first day. The second day, I think I might have told my aunt, like, I wasn't feeling well. Then I think on the third, it might be the second day as well, I said to my partner, like, I wasn't feeling well. I also told him, like, pack your bag for the hospital because I think he's gonna come anytime soon. But my partner he was just like, oh no, it's fine. He didn't pack his bag. So it got to the third day and like one of my friends, she's training to be a midwife, so I spoke to her and basically told her like my symptoms, that if it was like my waters are breaking but they're breaking really slowly. What else? I just felt genuinely just unwell, but not usually unwell. It was like, it felt very different. And then also his movements had changed. He wasn't as moving as much as possible. He was still moving, but it just wasn't moving as much as he was before. So those were the three main things. Also, like, the way that I was feeling when I wasn't feeling well, it felt like my blood sugars were quite high, which is, I recognise that feeling. Then also I'd had a swollen face as well. Feet had swollen as well. So my friend said, oh yeah, signs of preeclampsia. And from my appointments, they'd already told me that I was borderline because my blood pressure was high from the beginning of my pregnancy. On the third day, when I'd spoken to my friend and told her everything, and she'd told me to call my emergency line for like my midwives to let them know what's going on and to go in. But it was like midnight at the time and I had an appointment the next day, so I was like, oh no, please. I was just like, no, I'm not gonna go. I'll just wait till the next day when I have my appointment. But she was just like, okay, but make sure when I go to my appointment, I take all my bags and stuff with me. So I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. My bags had already been packed from like a month or two before anyway. I got a cab, like I was gonna drive to the hospital. My partner was just like, no, he was at work at the time. So he was like, no, don't drive to the hospital. I was having a normal like growth scan for him. Because I was diabetic, they were worried about his weight and stuff. So they wanted to make sure that he was the right weight and he wasn't growing too fast. Or the opposite way, with preeclampsia, you have the possibility of having like a smaller baby. At the scan, the woman was just like, there was an area that she kept going over. So I was just thinking, why is she going over this area? But I wasn't too concerned because she didn't seem really concerned. It just looked like, I'm not even gonna lie, I thought she was just getting the measurements wrong. She just couldn't do her job properly. Like, not in a bad way, she just was struggling with that certain area. So then she like turns to me, she asked me, oh, why'd you have your bags? I was just like, oh, I haven't been feeling well, so I wanted to go upstairs to triage, because they have like a maternity triage. So I wanted to go up there just to speak to them and for them to just check us out. And she was just like, your instincts were right, like there is something wrong. The issue is the cord pressure between you and the baby is really, really high, and also his stomach is really enlarged compared to your last scan. Now his stomach, so like let's say like his stomach was average in the 50th percentile. The next scan it was in the 97th percentile. So they're like, and I had a scan at least every month, or between every 2 to 3 weeks I had a scan. So then the woman was just like, yeah, his stomach is too large, like, you need to go upstairs. So I was like, okay, cool. So I've gone upstairs, I've told them blah blah blah. So then they've given me the little thing and they put around my stomach just to monitor him, and everything seemed fine. They were just like, oh, he doesn't seem like he's in distress, your contractions are very, very minor, so it's not really there's really no issue. They were just like to me, oh, we need the bed for someone else. So they asked me to go sit in the corridor. So I was like, all right, cool. So I'm gonna start taking all my bags again, I'm gonna sit in the corridor, spoke to my friends, spoke to my partner, they didn't know what's going on. So then one of the doctors came. He was just like, so I let her know this is what's going on. And then she was just like, okay, I said everything that it seems like my waters are breaking slowly. I'm not feeling well. Feels like my blood sugars are high. He's not moving as much as he normally is. So she was just like, okay, because of the stuff I've told her, they will like kind of take it a bit more seriously, and they moved me to another room, which is a private room. So this is where they were going to check to see if I was dilating, if my waters had broken, sugars in my urine, protein, and ketones. So those are the three like things that kind of like ring alarm bells to them. So then when she checked me, I remember saying that I don't really think your waters have broken, but you have dilated a bit. I think I was like maybe 2 centimeters, not anything crazy. And then she was also like, we'll check your urine. So then they checked the urine and like, oh, there's some sugars in your urine, plus 2 sugars in your urine. I was like, that's not anything that's too crazy. So she was like, okay, just drink some water, we'll try and flush it out. They were giving me a drip and they were giving me like jugs of water to drink as well. So I was drinking the water. It's like, okay, we'll check again in half an hour. Half an hour came, she checked again. She was just like, oh, you've got more sugars in your urine, now you've got proteins. We're gonna increase your fluids, keep going to the toilet and keep drinking water. We'll come checking half an hour again. You'll be checking half an hour again and nothing's changing. We're going to break your waters and we're gonna get the labour started. So I was like, okay, cool, fine. Half an hour comes, I'm still keeping in contact with my partner, letting me know. So he was at work anyway. Because it was during the lockdown and social distancing, you can only have like one person with you, and it had to be whilst you were actually in labour. So he couldn't come because I wasn't in active labour yet. So then a woman's come back, half an hour again, she's checked. And she was just like, okay, so there's plus 3 sugars in your urine, you've got protein, and now you're presenting with ketones as well. We need to break your water, like you're unwell, we need to get the baby out. So I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. So then they moved me to another private room. Because he was early, they had like equipment in that room, apparently, that they said. And then they broke my waters. That was that was so painful. Nobody tells you how painful when they break your waters are. That was extremely painful. As soon as she broke my waters, boom, contractions started coming. They were coming hard and fast. And I was like, ooh. I thought they would come and there'll be like a little, ooh, like little, you know, a little bit of pain. I can deal with it, a little bit of pain. And then it will increase. No, my contractions were constant from the beginning, the same level of pain all the way through. And I laboured for nearly 20 hours. Okay, so then my partner came eventually and, you know, just did normal. I think I laboured, started at 7 p.m. And then, I don't know when it was, but there was at some point I was just like, I can't take this anymore. I need all the drugs you can give me. Like, give me all the drugs. I was already on gas and air. It wasn't doing anything. I had paracetamol. They had like a drip paracetamol that they give you. That wasn't doing anything. I said, give me the epidural. My partner was just like, oh, are you sure? Like, you know, we spoke about this. You said you don't want epidural. I said, give me the epidural. I need it. So then they've given me, even like when the anesthesiologist came, he was trying to talk to me and he was trying to like give me all the instructions as to like, this is what we need to do, this is what's gonna happen. I was just like, hurry up, let's get this started. And he was just like, but I need you to understand. I said, I understand. I couldn't even open my eyes. I was in that much pain. I was just like, yeah, okay, cool, yeah, this, yeah, sign everything. I don't even know if I signed. If I did, I signed my life away. But well, as soon as the epidural came in, I was just like, oh yeah, you know, I could look around, I could see everybody, I could actually engage. Then, you know, continue the labour. But the epidural as well, this is something that I've never heard anyone say, it needs to be topped up every hour, I think it was. Because it takes 15 minutes for an anesthesiologist to get to you, you have to let them know at a 45-minute mark that go call the guy, let him know that I need some more. And because as soon as it wears out, that's it, the pain's back, and I'm back on the gas and air again. I was labouring, you know, making sure that every hour I was getting my top ups and everything. And then it got to a point that I was feeling unwell, and I was telling the midwife and the consultant, because I had 2 consultants and a midwife. I'm not sure if that's normal procedure, if it's because I had a high risk pregnancy, or it was because I was high risk and I was having a preterm baby as well. I'm not too sure, but I ended up having that many people. And then so I've told the midwife, oh, this is what's going on. So she told the consultant to go and get the prescription for anti-sickness. She's gone, she's come back, still not anti-sickness medication. I've had to repeat myself again, tell them I'm not feeling well, like I feel like I'm really nauseous, blah, blah. They're like, okay, they've come back giving me that. So I decided that I was gonna go to sleep because I thought if I go to sleep, I'm not gonna feel this sort of pain. So I've like tried to close my eyes, go to sleep. I'm kind of like sort of asleep, not very much, like, but still there. And then I'm like I feel my body's like shaking a bit, but I was just ignoring it because I was thinking it's part of the labour process. And then one of the, I don't know who it was, but someone, oh, I think it was the head consultant. So she was the head of the whole department. She's come in, oh, or was it my midwife? Somebody, I don't know. Somebody's come and they've tapped me and they've like woken me up and then like turn on your side quickly. So I've turned over onto one side and then they were just like, okay, turn on the other side. I've turned over. I'm not sure what's even going on. Then they've said that the his heart rate has dropped down to, I could see it dropped down to 60 and mine had shot up to like 130. So yeah, they've done that. They've turned me over. They're like, if we turn you over one more time and nothing happens, then we're gonna have to rush you into theatre for cesarean. I was like, okay. So they've turned me over. Within a couple of seconds, they've just been like hit the alarm. So then there's like an alarm button behind. They've hit the alarm, and a whole bunch of doctors have rushed into the room, and they're wheeling me out, and they've wheeled me down the corridor straight into theatre. Once we're in the theatre, I'm still trying to tell them like I'm not feeling well. I feel like I'm gonna start throwing up. So they do whatever they're doing. They're strapping me down. They're asking. They've got this thing. Can you feel this? Can you feel that? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I can feel everything. I guess my epidural had worn off by that point. So they're like, you feel this? Feel that? And then they're adding more medication into like my drips. I had 2 sets of drips in each arm. I don't even know how they wheeled me in with all of that stuff. Anyway, yeah, I had 2 sets of drips in each arm. And then, like I've told them, yeah, I'm not feeling well. Next thing you know, I'm projectile vomiting everywhere, vomiting on my bed, all over my gown. So sure, very sure some of it was in my hair. So I vomited everywhere, and they've given me those little like cardboard little bowls for me to throw it up into. I filled up 3 of them. They're changing them, trying to, you know, help me out a little bit. And even I heard one of them go, oh, like, oh no. And I'm just like, yeah, I told you. So then my partner comes into the room. They've somehow, like, he was asleep even. So this must have been a shock. But he was asleep at the time when they've told him that I think they've woken him up and given him scrubs and like put this on. We have to take it to theatre. So he's come in and he sat down. Like he's come and stood next to me, even though there's doctors trying to do everything, and they've been like, oh, can you go sit down? Just so that they can like kind of get their bearings and do what they need to do. So he's gone to go sit down, and then he's like trying to speak to me. He's just like, basically like, he's like, Jay, like relax. He calls me Jay. He's like, Jay, like relax, like calm down, kind of thing. Like don't worry about what's going on around you. Because I'm just like, I'm looking everywhere and stuff, and obviously he's coming after I've thrown up everywhere as well. So it must have just looked like I don't know what it looked like to him. After I thrown up, I thought I was feeling, you know, right as rain. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling good now. So then the head consultant of the department, she's come and spoken to me. She's like, this is what's happened. She's like, your baby's tired. He's in distress. We need to get him out now. So we've opted to give you a C-section now. And I said, no, thank you. And she was just like, oh, like, we need to give you a C-section. You need to think about the baby. But I was like, no, you're not about to give me a C-section. And I said, I need more time. Because I could feel within myself that my body could handle a bit more. Like what they thought my body could handle, and what, like, I could feel that I could feel that he was okay. It was because I wasn't feeling well. That was the main issue. I'd basically caught sepsis. This is what they told me later, that like they said we'd caught sepsis, but I'm guessing that was from maybe breaking my waters, you know. That's the only thing I could think about where it come from. So then they were just like, yeah, you caught sepsis, which I'm prone to because I'm diabetic anyway. So I have to be extra careful because I'm prone to catching infections. They were like, we need to start you on antibiotics straight away. So then they started me on antibiotics. This was I think I'm pretty sure they started that in the theatre, or maybe when they, yeah, I don't know. So then one was just like, the baby's heart rate needs to be like maximum 160 for us to allow you to labour naturally, and your heart rate needs to come down to 100. So I was just like, okay, I just need some more time. So like, we'll give you 15 minutes, like in the theatre room. Everybody basically stopped what they were doing, and they were like, we'll give you 15 minutes. If your heart rate and his heart rate come down, then we'll allow you to labour some more naturally. So I said, okay, cool. So then my partner, he'd come and sat behind me by that point, and he was just like to me, Jay, like, you need to control your breathing, to control your body. That he was like, go like basically like breathe with him, so in through the nose, out through the mouth. So I was like, just, you know, trying to breathe. And then he was just like, talk to him as well. He knows your voice, you recognise your voice, it will calm him down. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm talking to my son, I'm like, it's okay, we're okay, it's fine, don't worry about it. I'm like just reassuring him. I'm trying to breathe as well. So within that, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, my heart rate come down to what they needed it to be, and the baby's heart rate had come back down. So then they were like, okay, cool. So not okay, cool, but they were just like, okay, so you can go, we can wheel you back into the room for you to labour a bit longer. So we've gone back into the room, and then one of the other consultants come in. So he's the one who's going to deliver the baby. So he's been, oh no, I think he was one of the theatre doctors, but I think he was on standby because they thought they were going to have to wheel me back through again. So he's come in and he's just like, okay, you can labour for a bit longer, but we don't think you're going to be able to have this baby naturally. We're going to think you're going to need some assistance. So if it gets to a point where like he's tired or distressed again, we're going to wheel you back into theatre. We're either going to give you a C-section, we're going to use the forceps, or we're going to use the clamp to get him out. So I just said okay, because if that's the case and that's what needs to be done, fine, no problem. I'm all down for it, as long as they give me the time that I need to try and actually get him out. So then I spoke to my midwife and I was like to her, okay, so how long does this normally take, this pushing thing? And she was just like, probably about 2 hours. I said, 2 hours? She's like, yeah, 2 hours. I said, bet. I'm gonna have him out 25 minutes, half an hour, I'm gonna have him out. She was just like, it's your first baby and blah blah blah. I said, no, he needs to come out, and I'm not going to be pushing for 2 hours. 2 hours, I'm going to be very tired, and then they're definitely going to have to intervene. So I was just like, I need to get him out. So then they checked me, and then they were like, oh, you're about 7 centimeters, you know, within 2 hours time you should be able to start pushing and blah blah blah. So then they let me labour for a bit longer. It was difficult at that point. I had a playlist that I'd been playing for him throughout my pregnancy, so I put that on in the background. I'm still labouring, I'm still talking to him, I'm being very careful because any sort of movement, his heart rate was fluctuating. So I kept totally still for, this was probably about 2 hours. I was trying to stay the same position. It was very uncomfortable, and I was still talking to him, I was still breathing the whole time, literally the whole time. I was doing exactly the same thing, trying to keep him at a steady, like his heart rate, a steady rate. So then it came time for them to check me again. They were like, oh, you're 9 centimeters. So they were going to give me more time, but then one of the consultants was like, you might be able to push now. And I was like, yeah, let's do this now. And then he was just like, okay, so we need to get you some more epidural because your epidural's run out. So either we wait 15 minutes for us to get epidural, or you can start pushing without it. I was just like, he needs to come out, I don't care, I'll just have to soldier through it. And then he was just like, okay, we can do a couple practice pushes, and then we'll see if that's gonna help, and you can actually just push him now. So we did a couple practice. They were like, okay, we think you'll be able to push now, so we'll start. And then they asked me obviously about the epidural and stuff, and I was like, no, I'm gonna do it without it. I'm just need to get him out as soon as possible. Don't have time to be waiting on anybody. Let's just do this now. I'm just like, okay. So then we start. I'm pushing, and it's going pretty well. My partner's like next to me, and he'd made this little flannel thing that he'd put on my forehead because I'd had my eyebrows done. He's like, your eyebrows are looking good. I don't want you to sweat and like sweat off your eyebrows. So he kept this flannel on my head so that I wouldn't sweat and stuff. It was just so cute. I was pushing. It got to the ring of fire. That is something that's real. That ring of fire, that's real. When that thing hit, I said, oh, this is really painful. This is painful. I remember distinctly going, yeah, this one is painful. Like, and the mum's just like, yeah, it's the head. I'm just like, yeah, that's something that's really painful. Yeah. So then eventually got him out. Looked at the time, they're like, it was 2:31. They're like, oh yeah, you're 1 minute over the time you said. But they're like, we'll let you have that, we'll just let you like, yo, you told me 2 hours, I had him out half an hour. I should get some credit for that. So then they've taken him out, put him on my chest. They put him on my chest. He's not crying. But then they're rubbing him. I'm also rubbing him. And like I'm holding my breath at the same time. And then they've just taken him off me. They've cut the cord, even though his dad was meant to cut the cord. They've cut the cord. And they've taken him to that table that they had prepared for him. I'm still holding my breath because I still can't hear him crying. And then they're just like, he's fine, he's okay, like, don't worry. And then I didn't believe them when they were saying it to me. But they were like, he's fine, he's okay. He's just looking at us. They were just like, he's actually literally just looking at us and just not saying anything. So then eventually I heard him make a little sound, and I'm like I breathe a sigh of relief. He's still not crying anyway. But then they were just like, oh, giving him to me. No. And then obviously the neonatal team have come up with the incubator and everything. And then they were just like, okay, so obviously because he's preterm and you're diabetic, so we're going to have to take him down to neonatal for a while, just to help him with his breathing, his lungs, and try and keep his sugars at a steady rate. So I was like, okay. So they let me hold him for a little while, and I was just like, as soon as they gave him to me, I was like it's, oh, I remember the feeling now. It's just like, it's like a feeling of sort of shock, like this is the baby. So I'm just like, hi. I'm literally, that's the first thing I say to him. I'm just like, oh, hello, hi, you're right. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, hi, oh my gosh, like I finally get to meet you. Like I'm just like, it was like an overwhelming feeling. And then I think his dad was taking pictures of us. It was such an overwhelming feeling, especially because of what we've been through, like in the pregnancy in general. And then at the point of labour, it was just like, ah, finally he's here. Like, obviously he was obviously being 4 weeks early, it was still a good size. He was like 3 kilos 45, or 3.45 kilos, which is like 7 pounds, like 9 or something like that. So he was the size of like a full-term baby anyway, being 4 weeks early. Like one of the neonatal team came in and he asked like, is this a preterm baby? Is he 4 weeks early? And then they were just like, yeah. And they're like, oh, he's a big boy. And I was just like, yes, we've been eating. That was our labour story, shortened as much as possible. We ended up staying in hospital for like a week longer because of like his breathing, and he had a tube down his nose or his mouth. He had a tube for an end, can't remember. He had a feeding tube to help him out to maintain his sugars and stuff, and he had like a cannula in his hands to also maintain his sugars and fluids. And then he had jaundice as well, so he was under the blue light therapy for like a good couple of days. So, you know, he struggled a little bit. He had that cone. He had a bit of a cone head because he got a bit stuck. But that's all. Like, everything's fine now. He's good. He's healthy. Even when the consultant came in, she was just like, you managed to have him naturally? And I was like, yeah, I did it. And then she was just like, oh, you're one of the strongest women I've ever met. I'm just like, yeah, thanks, you know, thank you. But because me and his dad were, with this, like we were on the same wavelength. Like, we'd spoken about this before. We had the same views in terms of like intervention and stuff. Obviously, if it needs to happen, fair enough. But if I can push my body as far as I can, and I know my body can do it, then he was gonna support me as much as I needed. But yeah, like it's good being a mum. It's fun. Well, it's fun. It's just like I have a ready-made best friend. I will do an update of like what it's been like being a mum and stuff, and because you have like little challenges or little things there's something new every day that you have to, you know, combat. But yeah, that's it. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. If you've had like a challenge in labour or anything, you know, let me know in the comments below, because it can't just be me, or stuff that they didn't tell you about. That might be another video I'll do, like things they didn't tell you about whilst you're in labour or after the recovery, because that was serious. But yeah, hope you're staying safe and have a blessed day. Bye.